You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. So in last week's podcast, I was talking about the power of living in the space before words, which is another way of talking about now. And of course, we're only ever always living now. Now is just another word for being, for our true identity, who we really are and what we really are. But of course, if we have a conceptual filter or a story, or we're kind of caught up, or we're away with the fairies, however we want to look at it, like very often that is getting in the way of us kind of just having a rich, raw experience of now. So if you haven't caught last week's episode, I'd really recommend that, because it talks to the heart of what it means to live in the space before words, to be able to just before the narration, before the mind kicks in with all of its thinking and concepts and metaphors and all that kind of stuff, as beautiful as they are, to just be and just experience what's here. But this week I want to kind of play around with a fun metaphor that someone in one of the mystery school program that I run, one of the wonderful rebels in there the other week, was talking about how literally people keep walking into them. And it just seemed to be a recurring pattern that this person had noticed, and walking down the street or whatever, and people seemed to be bumping into them, and we got to talk about it, and it would seem to me one of the most powerful things about being less caught up and knowing that it's safe to look away from the content of a lot of the thought generated stuff that's going on, is that we don't walk into so many things, both literally and metaphorically. We don't make so many mistakes. We have access to more clarity. The wisdom that resides at the heart of our being has a more clear channel to move through, because it's not being blocked by those kinds of habitual, contaminated thought patterns that get in the way of something new flowing through the system. And it looks like one of the benefits for all of us is the more clear we are and the less caught up we are, we can also get out the way if people are going to kind of walk into us. And I just thought to myself of the amount of times that I have walked into a lamppost, and it's a lot less often these days, but I think I used to be pretty clumsy, falling off curbs, walking into lampposts, and I used to have all kinds of reasons for that, and spatial awareness and all this kind of stuff. And maybe there's some truth to that, but it's funny that the more I just find myself out of the filters and just in this experience, just this, whatever's here right now, the less I make those mistakes, the less caught up I get, the more available I am for life to kind of move through me as me. Of course, there is no distinction. I am life. You are life. And that's kind of very, very helpful. And one of the things is to realize that it's safe not to be caught up in that. The fact of the matter is your life is now. There has never been a time where that hasn't been the case, and there will never be a time where it isn't the case. Where in this moment, as you look around the room that you're in, or if you're walking through the park or whatever, just have a look around. This, whatever is here right now, this is your life. You're listening to me talk to you. So your life right now is listening to some dude called Sam waffling on through your headphones, right? This is where you are right now. And later on, wherever you are, like your direct experience around you, that's your life. But how often do we find ourselves pulled out into potential things that are happening in a neighboring county or state, or what's going on the other side of the world, or what's going to be happening next week, or what happened yesterday, or what potentially might happen, what inside somebody else's head, all of those things that it's so easy to get pulled into that illusion, into believing that that's what we're experiencing, but that's not our life. That's a thought generated illusion. And as I always say, it's not that there's never a time to have a think or to use those beautiful faculties, but if we're being pulled around by them, if we're lost in that world all the time, if we're not here, then it's like those faculties of imagination and memory, and they're using us, they're pulling us around. And so it's of no surprise to me that if we're caught up in all of that stuff, it's like we're walking around with a filter on, So just being here in this moment now is one thing. But if there's a story playing over the top, we're more likely to walk into a lamppost or into a person, right? Quite literally. but also as a metaphor for life. We're going to potentially make more mistakes. We're not going to be so focused. We're not going to be so highly tuned towards everything that we have going for us. And yeah, so there's always going to be people that are walking into lampposts. There's going to be people that are really caught up in their stuff. And a lot of people who don't realize that it's safe to look in a different direction, that it's safe to just come into this moment, to feel your feet on the ground, to take a breath, to come into being, to just drop all of the identification, to be here now, as Ram Dass would say. But not in a conceptual, nice, the kind of shit you'd read on a key ring. Oh, just be here now. Like, really. Be here now and then drop those words. Now drop those words and be here. Just this, as the Buddhists would say. And in here, just this, there's a wealth of stuff here. And we're much, much more likely to get out of the way if somebody is kind of innocently walking towards us as well. And that's the final thing I'll say, is that this rebel also shared, look, it's been really profound for me to see that a lot of the time when people walk into me, it's not intentional. There was a time in my life where I might get annoyed or angry at people, and how could they possibly have done that? Weren't they looking where they were going? But no, they weren't. They weren't. And so often it means that we can get out the way of incoming people or lampposts, but then we also find ourselves experiencing compassion or a lot less judgment about how someone could possibly be doing that, or also a lot more compassion for ourselves when we get caught up and when we walk into a lamppost, right? Because all of that, how did I do that? I'm so stupid, all that kind of stuff that often plays. That's just more story. That's just more narrative that doesn't help us. And none of us are at our best when we've got a head full of bees. And so maybe the key thing from this today is just to know that it's okay to look away from that stuff when we notice that we've got caught up in it. And when we look away from that stuff, life shows up right here in this moment. All right, Rebels, I hope you have the best week. Yeah, I will be speaking at a summit very soon. I mentioned it on the podcast last week, but it's from the 3rd to the 5th of June. It's all about wealth and health, and I'd love to have you there. So if you feel called, go and click the link in the show notes and come and join that free summit that my friend is running, and I'll see you there. All right, team, I hope you have a beautiful week. Huge love.